Well, here we are by the shores of Lake Macquarie. This is the place where I was born and raised. I guess as a kid, I did not think of it as a bucket list destination. It was simply the place where I grew up. So, what can we say about Lake Mac? Well, it's big. Lake Macquarie is the largest coastal saltwater lake in the southern hemisphere. It covers approximately 120 square kilometres, 4 times the size of Sydney Harbour. Now let's go back in time. For thousands of years, this was the country of the Awabakal people. One of the first Europeans to encounter these people and take a real interest in their culture was the Reverend Lancelot Threkeld. With the help of an Aboriginal companion called Biraban, he made a scholarly study of the Awabakal language and established a mission in a locality by the lake called Butterbar. After the mission closed, another settler arrived. His name was Thomas Williamson, and he emigrated from the most northern part of the British Isles. He came from Unst, which is the northernmost island of the Shetlands. Williamson purchased a large plot of land and established a guest house on a rise overlooking the lake. Guests came to fish, hunt and sail. He named his guest house after a locality he left behind on the island of Unst. He called it Belmont. In time, he established a post office, school and pub. To this day, there are streets named after his children, streets that once formed the boundary of his 100-acre property. Belmont grew in size as other lots of land became available. Belmont was marketed as a place where one could take full advantage of the opportunities for sailing, bathing and fishing. The rising land you can see here behind the apartment blocks is where Williamson's guest house would have been. In the distance, you can see a lagoon. I was born and raised in George Street, Belmont. From my bedroom window, I could see the lagoon with its black swans. Us kids would play among the paperbark trees and bulrushes, making bows and arrows and cubby houses. At night time, if a strong swell was running, I could hear the distant sounds of ocean breakers thundering on 9 Mile Beach. Between the lagoon and my house, there was a railway track. A steam train would leave every morning for the city of Newcastle. The steam whistle that announced its departure was my alarm clock to get ready for school. Today, the railway track and station have been long abandoned, but happily the old railway line has been replaced by the amazing Fernley track. It's a picturesque bicycle way and travels through Belmont Wetland Reserve. There are side tracks that you can explore if you have an off-road bicycle. You can double back to the eastern side of the lagoon to find a small peninsula. A Awabakal tradition holds that the lagoon was formed by the tears of the moon. Further along the Fernley track, there is a fire trail that takes you to the sand dunes of 9 Mile Beach. Four-wheel drive enthusiasts travel along this expanse of beach to camp and fish. Back on Fernley Track, you can keep riding until you come to signposts that direct you towards Redhead. Then you follow your nose until you arrive at the beach. Having arrived, you can take photos of the iconic Shark Tower and the rather majestic looking cliff face of Redhead Bluff. Its reddish tinge gives it its name. The southern end of 9 Mile Beach is Blacksmith's Beach, a popular surfing beach with a breakwater from which you can fish. Opposite Blacksmith's Beach is Swansea Headland. You can see Moon Island in the distance. Along this wild coastline, there are a couple of secluded beaches. I love taking my grandchildren here to fossick for shells, explore rock pools, trace drawings on the sand. You can even help environmentalists stabilise the sand dunes.
You've got to cover all that ready, and then on the sand. Maybe.
This is Hams Beach. We are looking down Hams Beach, and in the distance we can see the amazing Caves Beach. This is another great place for kids. At low tide, they can explore the caves and play in the tidal pools. Moon Island. A local dive shop says this about Moon Island. Moon Island is only a 10-minute boat ride from the Swansea Bridge and is loaded with dive sites. You can choose from arches to swim through, caves to explore, rocky shelves, or just drift down the side of the rock where you can find soft and hard coral beds and loads of marine life. Moon Island is the home to the beautiful grey nurse sharks. Between Blacksmith's Beach and Moon Island is the Swansea Channel that connects Lake Macquarie with the Pacific Ocean. Swansea Channel is popular for fishing, windsurfing and jet ski. The first European to venture into this channel was Captain William Reid. He found it by accident. In the year 1800, he had been sent from Sydney in a schooner called the Martha to the mouth of the Hunter River, where there was known to be coal deposits in the cliff faces on the southern shore. The entrance to the Hunter River was marked by Nobby's Island. However, when Captain Reid saw the entrance to Lake Macquarie, which also had coal deposits on its southern shore and an offshore island, he thought he had arrived at the entrance to the Hunter River. He dutifully filled his hold with coal and sailed back to Sydney. When the mistake was realised, the entrance to Lake Macquarie and the lake itself were named Reid's Mistake. In 1867, a schooner was wrecked off the coastline that you see here. The name of that schooner was the Catherine Hill. This beach is now called Catherine Hill Bay, and it's a beautiful piece of coastline. Catherine Hill Bay has historical significance because it was the first settled area in the Lake Macquarie region. Today, it is a state heritage listed historical coal mining village with a beach that has been named twice as one of Australia's 101 best beaches. We begin our journey towards the beach from a beautifully tended cemetery. Should you visit Catherine Hill Bay, be sure to stop for a drink at the Catho pub. On the walls of the pub there is a mural and framed sketches of Catherine Hill Bay beautifully rendered of its mining era. Note also the framed newspaper cutting that informs us about the Wotherspoons, the first Aboriginals to own a pub in the state of New South Wales. But above all, make sure you experience the beach with its iconic pier. Wander beneath the pier at low tide, search for rock pools and the rusted chains that once moored boats to the beach. Let's return now to the Swansea Channel as it makes its way towards the lake proper. We travel over the Swansea Bridge to a locality that is called Little Pelican. On the opposite shore lies Pirita Island, formerly called Coon Island. Pirita is the Awabakal word for oysters, which originate from the mangroves. It's a fitting name as this boardwalk winds through the lakeside mangroves. Then on towards Pelican with its park and markets and beach. Further along is Nauru Beach with its white sands and emerald waters. Then Swan Bay, and beyond is Marks Point. And this is Cane Point Holiday Park. Then we are back at Belmont Bay. Be aware that I've only shown you the attractions of one section of the lake on its eastern side. But there is so much more to see. When I became an adult, I moved away from the lake to find my way in the world, have a family, and follow my profession. But I came back. I'm reminded of a quote from a poem by T.S. Eliot. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know that place for the first time.